It's a Tuesday edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. It is Tuesday, November the 8th, 2022, and it's time to talk about a rough Cavaliers loss and look ahead to the Browns coming off the bye against the Dolphins. That's all coming up on a Tuesday in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
All right, welcome back. I've been a little under the weather, so was off yesterday from UCSS, and I'll be doing the show from home for at least the next few days. And I missed the podcast yesterday because I wasn't feeling well. Still a little coldy, but hanging in there. And so I wanted to get back on the podcast today. And since we last joined you, the Cavs have won 2 of their last 3 games. We'll get to the Browns. But since I was last on with you, the Cavs have won 2 of their last 3 games. They beat the Pistons Friday night, 112-88, a game that Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell did not play in, and they still won going away by 24 points. Then played a great second half, especially in the fourth quarter, and defeated the Lakers on Sunday afternoon by a score of 1. Well, I shouldn't say especially in the fourth quarter. They were great in both quarters, really. In the second half, and won 114-100. Unfortunately, the 8-game winning streak came to an end last night in the back end of a back-to-back with LA teams. The Cavs blew a late lead. They had been up a lot of the way. They had a big 12-point lead there in the fourth quarter and let it get away. Cavs couldn't make a shot at all down the stretch, and they ended up losing 119-117. But even with this loss, there's a lot of amazing positives that are standing out to me as we reach the 1/12th point, or the 1/8th point, the 12% point of the Cavaliers season. They sit at 8-2. They will continue their road trip with a game with the Sacramento Kings tomorrow. Obviously, not obviously, but everybody's off today. Great job by the NBA. Today is Election Day, of course. Let me get to that for a minute. Whatever your politics, everybody should vote. I believe it's the duty of every American. I know I'm not going to make a difference. Maybe 2 of you will vote after seeing this. Maybe by the time you see it, it's too late and the polls have closed. But I believe that every American should vote. Every American should cast your ballot. If you don't vote, to me, you have no right to complain about anything that's going on. I know things can be ugly. I know things can be frustrating. I know things can feel hopeless. I know you can feel helpless. I think every American should vote. I think it should be absolutely mandatory. And I will hope that everybody that's watching this and has listened to me over the 11 years and change I've been on the air in Cleveland will go out and vote. So I'll leave that there for now. But good job by the NBA having the day off for Election Day. So no games tonight in the NBA. So the Cavs will finish out their road trip with 2 more games. They are obviously 2-1 on the road trip right now. They'll play in Sacramento tomorrow night. That's a Kings team that, as usual, is not playing good basketball. They are 3-6 on the season. They have won 3 of their last 5 games, though. Give them that after starting 0-4. And then the big game Friday night, of course, they'll play at Golden State. Warriors not off to a great start this season. They did win their last game beating the Kings, but they had lost 5 in a row before that, and they are 5 in a row before that, and they are 4-7 on the season. However, we know how talented that defending champs are, so that's going to be a tough game before the Cavs come home on Sunday to play Minnesota. So overall, gotta love what the Cavs have done. Disappointing ending. It was weird that Donovan Mitchell went a while without taking a shot, but the Cavs just couldn't hit anything. But here's what really stood out to me, even in a loss, right? That the Cavs have become a team now, and it's early, but the Cavs have become a team that other teams will measure themselves by. After the game, when the Clippers stormed back and Paul George gets the 3-point play in the final minute to come back. I said it was a 12-point deficit. They were down 13, actually, in the final 5 minutes. Paul George says, this is a great win, a team-boosting win against a really good Cleveland team. This was just great. This was just great for our composure late in the game to find a way to scratch and claw our way back in, and then we just closed it out. You're talking about a Cavaliers team, folks, that has not gone to the playoffs in 25 years without LeBron James. Okay? This franchise, pretty much for the last 40 years, has either been they were good with Nance and Darty and Price and those guys. And obviously they were great when they had LeBron. And that's been it. And they have built this from scratch. They've made smart trades. They've, Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen. They've made great draft picks with Mobley and Garland. LeVert also via trade. Kevin Love long ago via trade. So, It has really been an amazing run. It has really been an amazing run that this team is off to. And the fact that other teams are now measuring themselves against the Cavaliers and what they do makes it pretty amazing. Really does. And I got to text Mike Lucas, our producer, that I'm recording the podcast. Yeah, I'm going to text him real quick. So even in a loss, and I know it's disappointing, I think what we know now is that other teams, good teams, the Clippers, a team that's 6-5, that has a great player in Paul George, and a pretty good team that they've played well lately. They had won 3 of their last 4 heading into this game. That if other teams with good veteran players are going to measure up, you heard what LeBron said about the Cavs. I'm sure most of you heard what LeBron said about the Cavs on after the game on Sunday. In fact, I'll read those comments from LeBron here. Just these stupid pop-up videos, annoying when I'm trying to read you something. Let me get the quotes from LeBron. Of course, I can't find it now. What the hell happened to my quotes? Anyway, LeBron, after the game, had some great things to say about the Cavaliers after the Cavs beat the Lakers on Sunday night. And I think that don't dwell in the little negative of losing to the Clippers. Here, let's see. Do I have it? Okay, yeah. In fact, our own Jason Lloyd got referenced in the quote. LeBron said, "I got in trouble last time when I was just giving an honest opinion," which he said with a smile, and then he mentioned Jason's name. He goes, "Yes, Jason Lloyd here tonight?" Which I don't care, so I'll give another. This is, again, LeBron and the Cavs. They did a great job in the offseason of picking up a big-time player. They have a really good team and a great coach, a well-balanced team, and a bunch of players who seem like they just really want to play ball. That's what this team's all about. They're still young. They're still learning chemistry. As Brian Windhorst pointed out in his article about the Cavaliers this morning on ESPN, the big 4 of the Cavs has only played 28 minutes together on the court. That's it so far. Garland's been a little banged up. Mitchell's been a little banged up. And despite that, they've started 8-2, which is the third best record in the NBA. I was right the first time. The second best record in the NBA, only behind the 9-1 Milwaukee Bucks, who they lost their first game of the year. In fact, they got smoked by Atlanta. So think about this. The Cavs are 8-2. They've been in every game. Their only 2 losses were by 3 points to the Raptors, by 2 points to the Clippers. They have not been out of any game, even the 2 games they've lost. I think it's pretty clear they can play with any team in the NBA. Now, we'll get the toughest test. We'll get some really tough tests with, as I mentioned, the Golden State, and they're playing Milwaukee a week from tomorrow. That game's in Milwaukee, so that's really exciting. But I'm not going to dwell on the negative of, they had a bad ending to the game. They probably should have won their 9th straight. That's okay. learn from it. As Donovan Mitchell said, I thought he made a good point. And, some of it's on him. Obviously, he's one of the leaders with Darius, and Donovan was not looking to shoot for whatever reason late in the game. But, but he said after the game, the biggest thing is we'll learn from this. They did a lot of things that we'll see come playoff time. It was a test. It's nothing to overreact to. We're not in the locker room freaking out. It's going to be a lesson, and we're going to get better. J.B. Bickerstaff said the test of how do you bounce back from something like this is an experience that you need. Through all the hype, we're a team that's still building, and we understand that. So as a coach, you don't expect to win them all. You expect to have some adversity and some ups and downs, but it's what happens next. And I think what happens next is this team, and I'm sure many of you saw the video of Kevin Love, given they got the what do they call it, the dog chain, or I can't remember what it's called, the thing the guys are really into for the guy who plays the grittiest and the nastiest each game, and JB went to take it out Sunday, and they had taken it, and Kevin Love announced that they were giving it to Bickerstaff, and the whole team went crazy. I love it. This team loves each other. They love their coach. They're playing hard. This team is legit. I am all in and completely buying the Cavs, despite a brutal ending to last night's game. It's one game in the long, and I think it's pretty obvious they will learn from it. They will grow from that experience, and it will make them a better basketball team going forward. You never want to lose, but you can get lessons out of learning games. So I think they're going to come out tomorrow night, and they're going to smoke the Sacramento Kings, and then we'll see. Again, after that, 2 of the next 3 games at Golden State, at Milwaukee, 2 of the best teams you're going to play on the road within 5 days of each other. That'll be fun. In fact, the Cavs are playing in Milwaukee twice this month. The next Wednesday, the 16th, and then Black Friday on the 25th. That should be a lot of fun, too. They play at Milwaukee then also. So it's going to be some big games coming up, and every night's a big night. Cavs got to know now that when they play other teams, for years when the Cavs were bad and they played really good teams, they would get up for playing those teams, and some of those good veteran teams would be taking a night off. Well, the Cavs got to realize now, and I'm sure they do, and they don't play that way because they're still a young, learning team, and they've proven nothing, absolutely nothing as a team. But all these teams are coming, especially the teams that aren't as good, but most of these teams in the NBA, they know how good the Cavs are. And they are going to bring their best, most of these teams, every night, especially when you play a Sacramento or a Minnesota or a Charlotte, some of these teams that are, trying to get where the Cavs are, which is the young, up-and-coming, sexy team in the league, even though they haven't, they've proven they're really good through 10 games. But as a team, they've proven nothing. They haven't won a playoff game, and until they do that, it's just what it is. It's regular season victories. It's awesome. It's exciting. But the Cavs are not going to rest on their laurels because they know they've got a ton to prove. And it's clear watching them play every single day when you do that they play that way. They play with that edge. And it's not going to be perfect all the time, and it certainly wasn't in the fourth quarter last night. But there'll be a lot more great fourth quarters than there will be ones like we saw last night. I think anybody watching this team, following this team, is pretty confident in that. All right, folks. I want to talk to you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all on BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, well, this weekend didn't go great for the Browns. I mean, they didn't play, so nothing bad happened to them individually. But in terms of the AFC and teams they're competing with for playoff spots, it mostly went bad. In the division, the Steelers were on a bye as well. The other 2 AFC North teams, and it shows you, first of all, last night, of course, the Ravens beat the Saints 27-13. They ran the ball really well. Lamar Jackson missed a couple big throws, but he didn't have, he only threw for 133 yards. But on the ground, Kenyon Drake and Lamar Jackson, who were the main ball carriers, they carried the ball 35 times between them. They had 175 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns for Kenyon Drake. So not much of the passing game. Isaiah Likely, who was filling in from Mark Andrews, was the leading receiver at 24 yards. He got one pass for a 24-yard touchdown, and he was the leading receiver. In fact, there was only one receiver in this game with more than 42 yards, and that was Chris Olave with 71. Nobody had 100 yards rushing or receiving for either team. Kenyon Drake's 93 yards rushing was the most. But anyway, the Ravens improved to 6-3. They've got a pretty favorable schedule the rest of the way. They have a very good chance to win the division. They're playing good. Early in the season, I wasn't buying into them. They're playing much better. The trades they made have helped. They're tough. I think they're probably going to win the division. Bengals have a tougher schedule. Browns have a significantly worse record than the Ravens at this point. I think it's going to be, and the Ravens have the tie. Bengals are only a game back of the Ravens, but the Ravens have the tiebreaker, and they will probably have the tiebreaker. So I think the Ravens probably win the division unless like Lamar gets hurt, something weird like that. But if you look at the Bengals game against the Panthers, this has got to make you feel even better about how well the Browns played on Monday night. Because remember, we know how good the Bengals offense is. They went to the Super Bowl last year. They had won 4 out of 5 games heading into that Browns game. The offense had been really good the last 5 weeks. The Browns completely demolished the offense, and then the Bengals went out there and played maybe the best first half of football we've seen from any team this year against Carolina. They were up. The final score is 42-21. It was not that close. Baker actually came in, played the second half, did a decent job, but it was all garbage time. The Bengals were up 35-0 at the end of the first half and 42-7 at the end of the third quarter, and they just cruised into the finish line. But their offense looked nearly perfect without Jamar Chase this past week. 5 touchdowns for Joe Mixon, who ran like crazy, and Joe Burrow was efficient, the line protected, and so that's got to make you feel good about what the Browns did, that maybe it's not an anomaly, because they shut down a team that otherwise has played great football since week 3. In 6 of their other 7 games, the Bengals have played great football, and the only one they didn't was against the Browns, so that tells you something about what they did. Other AFC teams you're competing with that you've already lost to, the Chargers, they beat the Falcons. The Patriots beat the Colts. The Jets beat the Bills. So nothing really went well for the Browns in the AFC. Chiefs won also, and the Dolphins won also. Now, the Browns will play the Dolphins this Sunday. The Dolphins are 6-3, but they've won all 6 games when Tua has started and finished. In the 3 losses, they lost a game to the Bengals that they were losing with Tua. I think they were losing at the time he got hurt. But it was early, and he didn't finish that game, and then they lost their next 2 with him out. So he's been phenomenal. They beat a Bears team where Justin Fields is running like crazy and playing much better than last month. But Tua had another big game, and it's an interesting game. And they just acquired Jeff Wilson from the 49ers, had a decent game running on 9 carries. But for the most part, the Dolphins have not run the ball well, and they have not stopped the run well. They've passed it. I mean, the passing game for them has been huge. So I think you have an interesting situation where the Dolphins feel like they could be a pretty good matchup for the Browns. I mean, the Dolphins are coming in here, even hotter than the Bengals were, because, like I said, they're 6-0 in the games the 2 have started and finished. So with him out there and healthy, they've got to feel very confident. However, they're not really good at running the ball. They're averaging less than 4 yards per carry. Tua is not a quarterback who runs. So you don't have to worry about that. It's not like a Lamar Jackson situation. Now, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are as dangerous as it gets. They don't really have anything outside of those guys in the passing game. Although their tight end Gesicki has 4 touchdowns, but he only has 230 yards in 9 games. But Tyreek Hill has over 1,100 yards already. And Jalen Waddle over 800 yards, and they have 9 touchdowns between them, and they're averaging between them about 16 yards per reception. So they're very dangerous, but we know what the Bengals were in the passing game, and they couldn't do anything. So can the Browns do the same thing to Miami that they did to Cincinnati, which is stop the passing game, try to force them to run, and which is something they don't do well. Also, the Dolphins don't stop the run. They've struggled run defense, and as we all know, the Browns are the best team in football at running the ball, or, one of the best teams in football at running the ball. If you look at the stats for the season, Nick Chubb is in second place in rushing yards, but Derrick Henry, I believe, has played one more game. Oh, no, it's incorrect. My bad. Derrick Henry has played the same amount of games. He only has 29 yards more than Nick Chubb, though, even though he has 34 more carries. Nick Chubb's actually fourth in rushing attempts, but he's really third. Joe Mixon has 2 more rushing attempts, but the Bengals have played one more game than the Browns. So unless Nick Chubb has only 1 carry this week, he will pass Mixon. So, and the only player with significantly more carries than Chubb is Henry, who has, as I said, 34 more. Saquon Barkley has 14 more at this point. Just 1 per game. Anyway, the Browns will be relying on Nick Chubb, and they will hope to get in a situation like they did against the Bengals, where they get off to a great start, get a lead, and then go. They remember last week they were balanced. They were not this myth that they were running a ton early is untrue. Through 2.5, 3 quarters, they were running at basically the same clip they've run all year. But what happened? They got a huge lead, and then for the last 20 minutes of the game, they ran because they had a huge lead. And that's what they want to do every week, but it doesn't turn out that way every week. Now, there's part of me that's like, unlike the Bengals, the Dolphins, they have their 2 best receivers are there. Bengals' best receiver was out. However, we just saw the Bengals' best receiver be out, and the Bengals' offense looks sensational again against Carolina, as I just said. So the other part of me says the Dolphins are a one-dimensional team, even more than the Bengals, because the Bengals at least have a good back in Mixon. The Dolphins really don't. And neither team's committed to running the ball. And also, the Bengals have been better against the run this year than the Dolphins have. And so, if the Dolphins are one-dimensional, that's where the Browns can be dangerous. Now, maybe the Dolphins, Mike, what the hell's his name? Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Dolphins, who's also the play caller, maybe he'll do a much better job than Zach Taylor of being creative, finding creative ways to try to slow down Myles Garrett, something the Bengals were unable to do. We shall see, but I think it's a fascinating game. So that's the early look. For a lot of last week, I was like, the Browns just have this thing with the Bengals. I'm not buying this. This is a turnaround. And as I went through the weekend, thought about it more, I actually rewatched the Bengals-Browns game and rewatched some of the Browns-Ravens game too. And I've kind of been trending now towards thinking the Browns can do this again. And if they can beat Miami, now we're talking. Now you're really back in the mix. As of this morning, in terms of the playoffs, the Browns at the moment are the 11 seed in the AFC. Remember, 7 teams make the playoffs. The Browns at the moment are 0-3 against teams that are in the playoffs. They've lost to the Ravens, the Jets, and the Chargers. If you look at the other teams ahead of them, they're now combined 1-4. They've also lost to the Patriots, beat the Bengals. So 1-4 against teams ahead of them doesn't lead to a lot of tiebreakers. At the moment, the 7 seed Chargers are 2 games ahead of the Browns, but there's a long way to go. And after 3 more games, you'll get hopefully an elite quarterback in the mix with Deshaun Watson. All right, take another break, then some final thoughts about other things that went on this weekend, including the Buckeyes and some other NFL games. Get to that next, right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. All right, so this weekend, a couple other things I wanted to mention. The Packers are a disaster. I I have to say I'm not unhappy about it. I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan. Their offense looks completely lost. He's been not good. That's one thing. Number two, it looked like the Buccaneers were about to fall to 3-6, and Tom Brady rallies them down late. Great final drive. Instead, the defending champs are 3-5. It's hard to believe how bad they've been. Wild game for the Chiefs as Patrick Mahomes threw 68 times. That was a weird game. They were running great early. The Titans were up 17-9 going the fourth quarter, and they end up winning in overtime. And how about the Seahawks? They just keep rolling along with Geno Smith. They are 6-3. It's remarkable. Kudos to him. And that rookie running back they got, Kenneth Walker, man, he's been phenomenal. Nice win by the Jags. The Raiders, maybe even more than the Browns, biggest disappointment in the NFL. Josh McDaniels, the supposed genius, went to Denver, was a disaster there. Goes to the Raiders. They're 2-6. Awful. And credit to the Vikings, man. Nobody's buying into them. Nobody's talking about them as the best team in football. They're the second best record in the league. They're 7-1. It's amazing. They have just played great football, and they're 3-1 on the road. And finally, the Colts get smoked by the Patriots. They fire their head coach, okay, and then they hire Jeff Saturday, who's been doing analyst work on ESPN. I mean, what kind of nonsense is that? No offense to Jeff Saturday. Jim Irsay's out of his mind. What is this guy doing? Does he have any clue? Some of these owners are so stupid. How do you hire a guy out of the TV booth? That's ridiculous. And an insult to all the coaches on the staff and to all those coaches working hard out there that have not been given an opportunity. I know it's an interim situation, but this is embarrassing. This is a disgrace. What an embarrassment. Finally, I always get mad at Buckeye fans because they whine at halftime about the team not winning by enough, and then usually the Buckeyes just kick ass in the second half. This week didn't really happen. I mean, they still won, but it was, they didn't. In the end, to me, you just win the games that matter. They did not play a great game against Northwestern. I think it's fair criticism on this one. Northwestern's a really awful team. They're 1-8, and the Buckeyes really struggled offensively. So this could be an indicator of things to come. But in the end, I can't worry that much unless they actually lose a game because, and maybe this is an indication that they will, but not necessarily. They only threw for 76 yards. Stroud really struggled with the wind conditions, averaged less than 3 yards per attempt. It was awful. It was by far his worst performance. The running wasn't easy. He got it going on the ground himself in the second half, but it was a struggle. It was only, both teams struggled to throw the ball. And Northwestern ran it pretty well. And anyway, it was a much, much closer game than I'm sure we all expected, but we'll see. But, and in the end, if the Buckeyes take care of business, Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, win the Big Ten title, it doesn't matter how many close games there were, they're going to the playoffs. So I'm not going to worry about that. The only reason to worry about it is because you think it might be an indicator that they'll lose to a really good Michigan team. That's the only chance they have of losing before the playoffs so that they can't win in the playoffs. I don't think it means that at all. The playoffs is 6 weeks from now, 7 weeks from now. I mean, team could change a lot between now and then. All right, that's it for today. Be back at it tomorrow. Please follow me on Twitter at Adam the Bull. Check me out on Cameo at Adam the Bull. I got to do a cameo today for somebody that reached out to me. Check out my website, adamthebull.com. Make sure you're subscribed to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Make sure you become a member. We have 2 tiers, $1.99 a month, $4.99 a month. If you sign up for the $4.99 a month tier, you'll get bonus content that we do every day, at least 10 minutes every day of bonus content every time we do a show. But if you subscribe, you'll also get the alerts about when we do post-game shows and things like that. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. See ya.